Okay, I think we're on now.
Nice.
Been a bit
How
of
are
a
you,
rocky
Nathan?
start, but
What's the technology these days? It's very complicated.
oh yes,
Yeah.
full of twists and turns and all kinds of fun stuff to look out for.
Well, yeah, this is the way we have to do it now. We technical difficulties are a part of our everyday life.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, thanks for being patient. I know we're starting about 25 minutes past when I was hoping to, but
That's okay. There's no rush. It's a Monday, Tuesday. I don't even know what day it is.
oh, there we go. Oops, where's that shortcut? Three.
It looks great.
Yeah, I'm still figuring out my little my shortcuts right now. I'm trying to click around here.
So for those watching
Oh,
at home, Nathan is not only conducting the interview, but he's going to be controlling all the video angles at the same time. It's a multitasking is something it's a whole thing when you're dealing with like virtual video and performance. It's a lot different than actually just doing a nice interview, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
I've already screwed up three times.
That's
As the
okay.
viewers are probably seeing the opening video kind of starting and stopping. But,
That's okay.
anyways,
Viewers
well,
that are tuning in later can fast forward through the first minute and then we're good.
sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, thanks for doing this. I know you've been doing a lot of shows lately, and some of them with
Yeah.
us, some of them on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I was wanting to ask you about what, at what point did you realize that? Okay, first of all, I'll back that up. Have you
Okay.
done streams before they were kind of all we had for music?
No. So I'm a live guy. I like to be in front of a crowd on a stage. Because for me, a show has always been a party, right? You get your friends together, you have a nice time, you have some drinks, you play some music. That's what a show has always been. And that's kind of been my wheelhouse over the last 15, 20 years doing music is playing in pubs, bars, and different venues where we can put on a big show. So this last year, the virtual thing has been new territory for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So what was your reaction to thinking that you were going to have to rely on this? Was it like kind of like scared of like how's this going to go? What's the technology like? What are the problems? Like, what's it going
Well,
to be like for fans?
my partner Kale may disagree, but I think I'm pretty tech savvy. So I wasn't scared of it so much. I was kind of excited actually, to be honest with you. I for a couple years now I've been recording music from home, so I'm getting pretty good with audio. Video was newer for me, but it was interesting. So March 2020, I think that was when everything first started to lock down, right? And
Yeah, I think was it 15th? I think it was 15th was the day
that's
that
exactly the day. Yeah.
yeah, that
And
was a big anniversary for everybody this year in like the worst way possible.
yes, the 15th of March. It's a day we'll all remember. But for a lot of people, they had already started working at home because people had the type of job where they could bring a computer and do it from home. My day job is in restaurants and hotels. So that was the day for us that the hotel and restaurant closed, which was, it was happening everywhere, but it was still new and scary. And nobody knew what was going to happen. We didn't know what would happen with our jobs. But all of a sudden, I found myself with a lot of free time and stuck at home. And I knew right away I was going to use this time to do music. So at first, I thought, well, I've been recording from home. I'll work on recording some new stuff. But I'm sure you remember, Nathan, like around that time, you'd go on Instagram or Facebook, and everybody who was a musician was performing, right? They had a guitar or their piano or whatever, and they were playing songs for people. And it was getting such a nice response. But the problem is, I didn't think the quality was very good. And no shade to all those musicians who were working so hard and putting their stuff out there, but man, you'd see like the guy in his kitchen that's not lit properly, strumming his guitar, and you can't hear him, and everyone's going, "Oh, it's so good." So I'm like, no, I want to do this, and I want it to be really nice quality, and I wanted to bring that energy of being at a party or at a show, and bring it to a virtual stage. So that was where I was coming from when I started doing the virtual shows.
That's awesome. And so, yeah, you've already been doing some of this, like with the recording stuff. So you're familiar with the tools, and just
Yeah.
like you said, like video is a bit new for you. But I mean, your videos look good, and they sound good too. So
Well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
good, good on you for learning as quickly as you did, and adapting as quickly as you did as well. Like that's pretty impressive. A lot of people are still struggling with this right now, a year and something in.
It's challenging, and I mean, gear has a lot to do with it. And I I have to say, I had a lot of help. A lot of help. My partner Kale is a photographer. He has good cameras. My dear friend Don, who I was in touch with daily in Berlin, he just knows tech inside and out and had all these great ideas. So when we first started at the end of March doing the World is Watching show, decided to do a concert weekly, and we were going to do it in a pre-recorded format. And the reason is because we're able to do different angles and also mix in other guests virtually. So, what we're doing right now, for those watching at home, we're actually streaming into some software that Nathan can control live. So, we're actually talking live and he's splitting up the video. But that's harder to do when you've got people playing music because it has to be precise, it has to be on the beat, and you're dealing with lag times and different types of quality. So, it just made sense for us to go pre recorded. And I started doing it on my iPhone and using an old iPhone as a secondary camera, and it looked pretty good. I'd record all my parts live and then edit the audio to make it sound nice, match it to the video, choose the angles, and then any guests that were performing would perform their part to that, send me the video, and I'd mix in all of the audio and we turned it into a show. So weekly we were doing that, and each week it got better and better because we would start to use nicer cameras. And Don said, go on Amazon for like $15, you can get a spotlight and you'll actually be able to see you, and these kind of little tricks you learn. And so we did. Now we got all these lights and cameras, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like we went from everyone saying, "Oh, it's not about the gear, it's not about the gear," because it was the in-person interaction. You could actually talk to the audience and you could interact with them like
Totally.
with human like body language and making eye contact. And now you are stuck to whatever your gear is able to do. I've seen
Yes.
some pretty creative uses of gear, but yeah, in some places that's a huge limiting factor. Like we've all got Amazon, but sometimes Amazon is not a great option when you're several hours from the closest okay sized town.
Yeah, totally. It's not quite as quick if you're not in the big city. Um, and there's limitations. People can't always afford to spend all their money on gear and stuff. Not that we did. I mean, we would take stuff we had lying around and, like I said, $15 spotlights, some cheap little LEDs, just a few things to boost up the production a little bit. But it is interesting. Obviously, the content has got to be good, and I've seen some great stuff that's just filmed through an iPhone. If like the performer is good and engaging, the quality doesn't matter that much. But again, the showman in me wants to put out a good quality performance for the audience, right? Something that they can watch and be impressed with the sound quality and the video quality, and it will keep them more engaged as a result.
One thing that I'm curious about, I'm wondering what's been your method is the crowd interaction. I've seen a couple of different ways that like the performer will react because that's unfortunately the thing is that the musician has all this great gear and the audience
Yeah.
members are probably sitting like who knows, maybe they're ruling the throne, maybe they're on the couch, maybe they're on the subway, maybe they're at
Right.
work, whatever. They don't have a very good system, but somehow like they're just typing back to you. So like how do you react to them? Do you find there's a huge delay? Is it kind of weird like having like to pause and go back and read a bunch of stuff? What's that like?
Yeah, well, you get used to it. Another reason why I like this pre-recorded, like we did 13 of those World is Watching shows, and the coolest thing about it for me as a performer was to be able to watch the show with the audience. So instead of playing the show and then, running around trying to talk to everybody after, or in the case of virtual, you're trying to multitask being in a chat room and playing the piano, which is another challenge. But having pre-recorded, we I was able to sit and watch it with everybody. I could sit or be in the chat room reacting with them, and that was really really fun. So it was kind of like watching your own concert from above, and that was a fun way to interact. But now that we've been doing more live stream shows that are completely live, it is just like you're doing now, trying to multitask, running an interview and choosing camera angles and being on top of the audio. I'm trying to be in the chat room on my phone and say, "Oh, hey, everybody." It's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah. Um, it is interesting trying to juggle that many things at once, and I'm sure playing keyboard and also trying to type back responses or say responses, that is its own challenge as well. Have you seen anyone do something that you thought, that's awesome, I want to give that a go? Like maybe they have way more budget, maybe it's like a bigger band and they actually like produced a live stream show, or maybe you just
Yeah.
saw some really creative ideas. Like, have you seen anyone do stuff that you never really imagined?
Yes. One good example of that, I think, would be seeing some of these big venues, like the bigger bars and nightclubs, doing live stream shows from an empty venue. And I know there's been a bit of that with Unicorns Live at the KCT, but we've seen it here in Vancouver at the Commodore, but even at smaller venues like the Roxy, which is one of my favorite places in the city to play with my band. I see they start streaming live shows, so you get the energy of the full
Example
lights
of
and the
that, I
smoke
think, would
machines and
be
the different cameras. It looked and sounded fantastic, and they had this band playing, and they were great. And so, of course, I messaged the Roxy and say, how do I get on this? And then you realize the reality of this. You've got a bar that has been closed for a year, trying to keep their staff employed, trying to find stuff to do. They can't just let a band come in and use this space. It's a huge cost to do something like that,
right.
between a venue rental, paying people to do the sound, paying people to do the video, insurance to have the venue open when it's been closed for a year. So it's not viable for a lot of artists to um, do that type of performance. Very cool to watch, and I'm glad that it is happening. But you know, for me, being able to do it at home is a really, really nice thing. But one day back in the bar, for sure.
Yeah, and something that I've been noticing is that behind the scenes um, channels, accounts, whatever, they've been blowing up because people are bored and they want
Yeah,
to try out new stuff. So if you see how somebody else did something, well, first of all, you have a greater appreciation for how it turned out the way that it did. But sometimes it's actually more interesting to see the behind the scenes stuff, like to see what's going on in one of these live streams productions.
yes,
Is it's a lot. There's a lot going on, and
yeah,
it can be really cool. And it gives you ideas too, or it gives you more respect for, wow, they pulled that off. That's pretty amazing.
totally. And the stuff people are pulling off with no budget is really impressive. Like, I don't know, do you watch the RuPaul's Drag Race at all?
I've actually only seen it when other people have it on.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm not watching a lot of stuff. Actually, I've just started watching a new show, and I've only saw 3 episodes of it. It's called The Boys, and it came out like two
Oh,
years
that
ago.
one, yeah, that one's amazing. Well, RuPaul, I'm not the biggest fan in the world either, but I found their new season was so cool. Obviously, they have the VH1 bucks, right? So they've
Right.
got tons of budget, but the way they managed to pull this show off during this year of COVID is like mind-boggling. But you see that on a smaller scale with people doing it at home, and companies like Unicorns, the company that you're working with and I've been working with too. It's just like, got to get really creative to be able to put together this high quality content and still follow all the rules along the way, right?
Yeah, the restrictions definitely have not made it easy on anybody,
No.
and more often than not, it just feels like extra obstacles to hurdle over. But it's also been kind of nice how it forces creativity. It forces people to think outside the box, and
Yeah,
also it forces you to think about what you really care about doing enough to get over those obstacles.
totally. And like, you're mostly video guy, right? Like, I know you play some music as well though too.
I actually started out audio only.
No way.
Yeah. My
Okay,
background
cool.
is audio school here in town at a place called Center for Arts and Technology. And
Okay.
I ran away to sea and I worked on cruise ships for almost a year and a half as the audio tech in the theater. And
Wow.
I did a huge career flip and switched over to video and photography full time. And so I'm usually pretty quiet about my audio. I just let other people handle it. Other people who
Yeah.
are more passionate about it currently. I
Currently.
can figure
Okay.
it out, but that's not what I'm all about right now.
Well, you're really good with video, so I can only imagine that you are with audio as well. But
We
I
got our
think
wizard Corey, who's our resident audio guru.
yes, I love Corey. I mean, I didn't know there were so many talented people up there in Kelowna doing so many cool things. When I first came up and saw what Rebellious Unicorns was doing, and now with Unicorns Live, it's just like so impressive.
Yeah, there's some really good talent that we get to pull from, and some pretty amazing team members that we have. Like every once in a while, we kind of have to look at each other and pinch ourselves and think, like, what are we doing? Like we just wrapped our first season of the orchestra.
Yeah, that was incredible. I still think one of the coolest things ever was how, and I know you had a lot to do with this. Uh, you specifically was putting together that Pride Festival with two different stages running live at the same time and pushing the whole thing out virtually on their platform. It was
Yeah,
really cool.
that was a fun challenge for sure.
Yeah, like the organization alone. Wow.
Speaking of that, you've got your piano all set up here, and I was just curious,
Yeah.
could we bug you for maybe a piece of a song or anything that's on the tips of your fingers?
Yeah, I could do something like oh gosh, I have no idea what to play. Nah, I know exactly what to play. So I'm gonna play actually my newest song. How about that? It's "Standing in the Way of Love," which I had written just before the pandemic came out. I was really excited to start playing it around, and then we start going virtual, and I played it a few times, but decided to do a home recording of it with the band, and that's the recording that we put out there. And it sounds pretty good. Everybody just recorded their part from home. Like Mikey was literally playing the drums and recording through his iPhone, and then we replaced it with drum triggers, so it sounds good. And like Brad's guitar it's total home recording, but I like how it turned out.
That's really cool. I'd actually love if we can link that afterwards.
Definitely. For now, the live version. Hey! So you feel like you've been bought and sold, and it's hard to see how little you've grown when the habits always stick around. In the same old job, in the same old town, you take one step forward and two drinks down. You know every face in every crowd, but there's not even one to reach out to when you're looking for someone to see you through. Standing in the way of love, you better find a way out of this rut. Don't be distracted by another's approach. When the path is clear, you know I'll be standing by to watch you grow. You've always been one of the lucky boys, and not a problem using charming poise. Still, it's making you go insane. How hard you're covering up your pain. It's like one step forward and two bad nights till you find yourself on the other side, or with a moral hangover, or wasted nights, an empty wallet and a bad black eye. Standing in the way of love, you better find a way out of this rut. Don't be distracted by another's approach. When the path is clear, you know every night takes a different life. Every life holds a different knife, and every knife will cut your life or will blow your mind. And if you're standing in the way of love, you better find a way out of this road. Don't be distracted by another's approach. When the path is clear, you know, standing in the way of love. You better find a way out of this rut. Don't be distracted by another's approach. When the path is clear, you know, I'll be standing by to watch you grow. There you go.
That was so good,
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you
man.
so much.
So, sorry, that was your latest song you wrote?
Yeah, Standing in the Way of Love, it's called. So you
Man, I
can
love
find
that.
it on, yeah, it's a nice one, huh? It's sort of inspired by Bruce Springsteen.
You do have that
Yeah.
kind of vibe. You've got that. I'm not sure how to describe it, but like it's not like angry, but it's high energy. It's like I don't know. It's just a good rocking song.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I know. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you pull off that style really well. Like you really own the like you own that kind of music that gets a bar up on their feet, and you don't want to have a conversation over it because you're gonna miss out.
Nice. Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I've met you since pretty much only since the pandemic. So before that, I was playing a lot with a really great band. So we were a lot more hard rock than what you've seen in the last year, and that was awesome because I would just wear like leather and get up on stage and scream and yell. That was really fun.
That's a
Like
good
it.
style.
But you got to adapt. And so through the pandemic, back with the piano, it's like Bruce Springsteen. I can wear blue jeans and t-shirts and sit around at home and play piano for you.
Well, you own the home jam style really well because like I know a lot of people, myself included, back when I attempted to plink plank plunk on a guitar, is that we struggle if there's nothing feeding energy back. But you do such a good job of really leaning into your song and creating like a performance for people to enjoy and watch. Like even though like we're just watching you performing to a piece of glass and a microphone in front of you, like you still give that same kind of vibe. And like I'm just curious, like where did you learn that? Was that something you kind of always had in you, or did you see someone perform that way and you thought, I want to do that too?
Well, first of all, that's very nice of you to say and nice of you to notice. I appreciate it. Um, but that's something that comes from years of playing to empty rooms. No, honestly though, I learned pretty early on when I was performing, you got to play every show like it's your biggest one because you never know who's watching. And interestingly enough, most of the big gigs I ever got over the years came out of smaller gigs. And I realized like you're going and playing some bar, there's four people watching, and two of them are the friends you dragged out to it. You still got to put on the good show. And I mean, I know it can be discouraging, it can be tough, but I see so many bands and performers where that discouragement it's so evident when they're performing and they're almost angry. It's like you can't be angry at the crowd that actually did come out to see you. So my approach has always been to pretend like it's a big show and still, you know, costume on, curtains drawn, make sure it's a big deal for the people there because you never know who's watching. And, someone in the shows or in the crowd says, I love it. I'm running this showcase down the road at the Plaza of Nations. And that's how I wound up playing the Plaza of Nations with a big lineup that one year because someone in the crowd watched my show to a crowd of like five people. So
That's so
you never
cool.
know.
Yeah, I know some people's acts really depends on having that crowd interaction, but
Yeah.
I know that I'm a person that will recommend a band that I saw live because it looked like they were just on stage having fun, and it would have
Yeah.
been the exact same if they're in a jam space, whether or not there's an audience there. It's like, oh, they were great, they were such good performers, they were just having fun the whole time. It's like we weren't even there, and it was a great thing to just get to witness.
Exactly. And you're right, Nathan. Along with having an interaction with the crowd, being able to have other performers to interact with can really make all the difference too. So, yes, when you're playing solo to an empty room, that's the biggest challenge. But when there's someone here to sing with or play guitar with you, you have them to interact with and have a lot of fun. And the collaboration, even when it's virtual, it's still there, and you still feel that connection. And that's what I like.
Is that you're talking about collaborating with your band, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of musicians that meet each other at shows.
Hmm.
Is there a lot of networking going on right now? Like, what are other musicians doing to meet up with each other?
Well, I mean, obviously a lot of it's virtual, but I've noticed this year personally, I've met more musicians and done more collaborations than I ever have. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that there's more free time for most people. Like, quite frankly, even people who are working full time through this, there's more time at home. There's not a lot of places to go. We're not going out and staying out late and being all hungover the next day. It's like there's time to work on this stuff. And I've met people through doing these virtual shows from all over the world. And like during the World is Watching series, those 13 episodes, we had over 40 different musicians come through
Wow,
that
that's a lot.
yeah, it was really cool, and many of them people I know well who I've played with before, and a bunch of new people too who just saw the show and said, hey, I want to be involved. um, and I met a lot of them through doing through some queer music platforms too. There's a really nice network there, really great support system, and I met some great musicians from all over.
That's awesome. Do you find that the people who are out there and willing to network are the people who you'd want to network with? Like, has the inconvenience kind of weeded out a lot of the bad apples?
Yeah, I mean, maybe the other thing that's so funny is like you never know if you would get on well with these people in real life, right? Like you're like, oh, we do great swapping files back and forth and doing collaboration from a distance, but you never know, these people might like just grind your gears in real life. But for the most part, no, I've been lucky to work with some really great talent. And like for example, a lot of the people I've met through unicorns, like doing the Cusick show, then I've been watching the platform and all the other artists that come through, like Adam from Fight or Flee is a great example. Like, wow, what a crazy good musician who I probably never would have met otherwise. And we wound up getting along really well, and then doing some virtual collaborations together too.
Yeah, wasn't he sitting on the table next to you at Cusick, and wasn't he
Yes.
like he was messing with you too? Like he was making some kind of like face of the camera or something
Oh
like
yeah,
that. I
he
just
was a
remember he was
lot of
having fun
fun.
with that.
He was so fun. I remember I sent him a message and I was like, "Oh, I watched your show on Cusick. You were very good. I'm coming there to play in person. You should come." He's like, "Yeah, yeah, maybe." And then he showed up and hung out with us. He was great.
That's
Nice
awesome.
guy. Yeah.
That's awesome. I've had a couple of friends, like not in music but in photography, reach out and they're having trouble with some stuff. Maybe they couldn't figure some things out. They were like, "Oh, how do we do this? How do we do that?" And more often than not, I find that the question has already been answered better than I could answer it. So I usually just redirect them to links. But for
Yeah.
musicians, quite often it's like, "Hey, can you show me how to play this thing, or can you play with me? Can we jam together? Where can I learn this stuff? Like, what's the community like in terms of like helping out the newcomers or tech supporting them
Well,
with like, here's how you do a performance, here's how it doesn't suck, like do this, do that.
totally. Well, I'm pretty open to that because so my comfort level with all the technology I think is a medium, maybe a medium high. But Kale, my partner, really knows his stuff. So I have to go to him for a lot of stuff, especially when it comes to setting up cameras and getting all the f stops and ISOs and all that. Like I don't know any of that. But when it comes to music, recording at home, I'm pretty good with that stuff. And so it's interesting. I work with so many different artists who just naturally know how to do it and it makes sense to them, and I'll say I'm going to send you a file, and then they just make it work and they send me back beautiful stems that fit into the project perfectly and are recorded nicely, mix in easily, and the video that syncs to it. And then you have the total opposite where people have no idea what I'm talking about, and I have to explain them through every step of the way. But the fun part about it for me has been just making it work when every challenge has come up. Like we talked about at the beginning with the technical difficulties, you make it work, and there's always a workaround with technology. You can always find some way to make it happen.
Yeah, it's like if you've got the time for it or the budget, then you can make up for whatever it is. It's like, what is it? Good, fast, and cheap. Pick two.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it's a triangle.
and now with all the spare time, people have a lot of time to learn and figure out how to do it cheaply and well because
Yeah,
they've got the time for
good, fast, and cheap. You're talking about the gay bars, aren't you?
it. It works on a lot of levels, honestly.
Technology, yes. That's amazing.
Something that a few friends of mine have brought up is they've started exploring different ways to use their craft. So I'm thinking about for music, I suppose that could be things like music bed or like royalty free music for stuff. Like, have you been
Yeah,
exploring other ways of using music and songwriting as like extra methods of income? Like you said that you work in like hotels and restaurants and such, so
yeah.
you're not 100% relying on this. So the
No,
pressure's not
no.
quite as hot to figure it out like quickly and now.
And thank God.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
yeah, it's no, it's tough. Artists have it pretty tough right now. Or I should say musicians specifically, because that's the world I know and I'm comfortable with. And I know for a fact that streaming revenues are so minimal. Like, the days are gone that we could invest in pressing a CD and then sell it for a decent profit to people and actually make a little bit of money. You got to get into the hundreds of thousands of streams before you start making money. So the investment to record a song, put it out there, it takes a long time to get the payback on that. So I mean, a lot of musicians I know need to keep a full-time job along with it just to fund their craft and pay their rent if nothing else, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, there's definitely other avenues to explore. Personally, I haven't gone there yet. I've been spending the year working on this virtual stuff mostly, along with working on some new songs and eventually getting to a new record for myself. But in the meantime, the collaborations have just been too much fun. I've been loving working with different artists and doing different styles of music. It's really great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I This is a bit of a left field thing, and I'm gonna kind of give some context for it first.
Okay.
So a couple of my favorite bands over the years, like some of the ones like I heard about a while ago, they're from weirdly enough that they at least two anyways are from Winnipeg,
Oh,
and
cool.
them and also another band as well. I'm trying to remember who. Actually, no, they live in Texas now, but they used to be in Seattle. It seems to be like a lot of artists come from places with shit weather.
Well, yeah, that makes sense, right?
Like the theory that I think that someone else told me and I totally stole 100%, it's not my idea at all, was when you are having a good time and it's nice outside, you're not going to sit in your room and write a song. You're going to go outside and enjoy life.
Yes.
But when you have a breakup, when it's gross out there, when it's frozen for half the year, you're going to write a lot of songs because you're kind of stuck inside and you have to have an emotional outlet.
Yeah.
So with all that, where's your song inspiration coming from? And also, am I completely off on that? Like, is that just like a few
No,
musicians, or does that sound like
this is a really, really great observation, actually. And you're living in Kelowna and I'm living in Vancouver, both really beautiful places with a lot of outdoors stuff going on, right? Like you can ski in the winter, you can go water skiing and swimming in the summer. Like I don't know what other outdoor activities you do, but there's so much to do. It's so beautiful, and I think there's definitely more time for music when, like you said, it's cold and raining and you can snuggle up at home. And it's songs are good songs are born out of pain, man. like you said, the breakup or something sad that's happened. It inspires your feelings to get rolling. Um, Again, another reason why I've enjoyed this collaborations is because I find that can spark a lot of creativity too. For example, Tara C. Taylor, my friend who lives in Berlin, used to live here. She's from Winnipeg, believe it or not. And we did music together for a really long time. And we've been creating new stuff from a distance through this whole pandemic. But we didn't really have any ideas. So she said, let's just make some fun, boppy dance songs and in the style of. And then she starts sending me some reference tracks. And I'm like, okay, I see where you're going. So she wants to do like a 80s throwback thing. And then all of a sudden the ideas just start exploding because there's no pressure. It wasn't anything too serious and it wasn't anything too personal. Whereas when you're writing about, the breakup with the love of your life, that can be, you know, you can labor over those lyrics in that song in a way that you wouldn't necessarily with a silly, fun dance song that's just meant to get people going.
Yeah, there's something nice, isn't it, when it doesn't really matter? Like when there's no
Yeah,
pressure to make it perfect.
exactly. Or you're just kind of creating something out of, thin air. I'm as a singer songwriter myself who typically I'll write on my own. I really do labor over those songs. Like I tend to put out records, and you can see I put them out like every 5 years or 4 years. It's not like there's new stuff every year because I take my time with those songs. Too much time. What I'm trying to say. Yeah, it's hard to not to nitpick over your own creation sometimes.
Yeah, we're all pretty critical of our own stuff, especially when we have more and more time to overthink it. Are you
Yeah,
an overthinker? Do you struggle with just producing and keep on wanting to
yeah,
perfect
I
it?
think so. And yeah, production's a whole other thing. I mean, because there's so many ways you can go, right? And there's no right or wrong. And I mean, I think there's good and bad quality, but there's still no right and wrong in the way you're going to make a video look or a photograph look or a piece of audio sound. Like there's so many different approaches you can take. It can be overwhelming sometimes to start a project and be like, oh man, like what am I going to do with this? So this is why, this virtual has been great because just pushing out content kind of on a bit of a schedule is a good kick in the butt to keep it on track, right?
Yeah. Now, I was talking with a friend of mine a few days ago. We have both are fans of the band Metric. Not sure if you're
Yeah,
if you're familiar with them.
yeah,
Uh, so we were talking about some of her favorite album is um, I don't remember the name of it, but it's an older one. I just remember one of the songs off. It's called Combat Baby, and
yeah.
yeah,
That's a good
I
one.
can't something Underground I think was the name of the album. But
Yeah,
we were talking about how fans can get pretty frustrated with their favorite artists when they are introduced to a band that they really like, and then they come out with some new content, and it doesn't even sound anything remotely like what they fell in love with. Maybe it still sounds like the band, but it
yeah,
doesn't sound like what they felt connected to. And so then you have fans like, oh, they moved away, they sold out, they sound nothing like they used to, which
yeah,
is a pretty horrible thing to say. It's like it's their creative outlet. Like let them do whatever they want. But it still influences how bands think from time to time, depending on how connected they are to their audience. So without
yeah.
this kind of connection, like how much do your fans, to your listeners, like how much do they does their comments impact you? Like if they love something, does that make you want to keep on doing more of it, or how do you
Well,
respond to that?
that's a really interesting question. And first of all, I think I like when I see bands that evolve and change. Not necessarily sell out or try to keep up with the trends, but change their style a little bit. Look at a band like Arcade Fire as a good example. Like they started off a certain way. Is that
We were talking about them, and I was mentioning how my friend had a T-shirt that said "Who the fuck is Arcade Fire?" because they were such a big deal, and then they kind of yeah.
yeah.
Where are they now?
Well, I mean, they're still doing stuff, but their albums changed a lot, right? Like they came out one way, and then they got into more like disco music. And I personally like the progression, and not everybody would. But I think being a singer songwriter is interesting too. Like if you look at some of the great singer songwriters over the years, Bruce Springsteen, Neil Young, all these songs that they write, they can change their style, they can change their band lineup, the way they're producing their music, but these are still their songs. And all of a sudden, all these years later, they have this catalog of songs that can wear different outfits. Kind of, it can be a rock song, or it can be stripped down to be played on a piano. Like that's what I like about writing my own material, especially on the piano. I can produce it and do an album like my Every Single Sin that has more of a hard edge to it, but these songs I can still play when I'm sitting in my living room on my own, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
that's pretty cool.
yeah, I think it's fun to change it up a little bit, and if people don't like it, well, you hope they do. And I think the one thing I've tried to keep consistent throughout my career of playing music is having fun, energetic shows, because then no matter what kind of style you're playing, I think people can connect with them.
Yeah, fun energy is difficult to disagree with, if I can put it that way.
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
if someone else is having a fun time, if they look like they're enjoying themselves, I mean, I want to have fun too. It's like that whole like
Yeah.
you're around a group of people that are super hyped up about stuff. You just feel yourself rising up as well, like to match the energy of who you're around.
Totally.
Yeah,
No, exactly. And I remember so the only gig we've really done together in person was that one in the summer at Dorothy's Lounge when we
that's
first
correct.
met,
Yeah.
right? That was so much fun. That was such an example of like a really good energy in the room. And I went up with my friend Brad Pedwell, and it was in the summer when the restrictions from COVID had started to loosen quite a bit. And we were all feeling a bit optimistic at the time. And, you know, it was really great. The crowd was lovely. And I recognized that the music we're playing might not be for everybody, but everyone in there was on board. The um, feedback and the energy from the audience was just so amazing both nights. And I remember them being like really memorable shows, even though it was a smaller crowd because of the distancing that was required. It was like a hot crowd.
Yeah, it was a really good night. I really enjoyed that, and I think I spent the whole night facing the other direction too, because I was set up with my monitor facing
Oh yeah,
away.
you were choosing the angles.
Yeah, I have a totally different perspective on every one of those shows, or I did whenever we would do Cusick. We haven't started it up yet this year
Yeah.
yet, but yeah, I have the grid view. I have the security cameras of like five angles from everywhere, and everyone else has just got their chair perspective. But I get to see
And
everything
then
totally
angles
different.
within angles too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So here's sort of something we're always thinking of new things to do, new ways to do new shows. If I
Yeah.
told you some of the ideas that we have, I think you'd be pretty excited because they're pretty
Yeah,
wacky.
yeah. I want to hear.
Okay, so I'll tell you one of the ideas. Somebody who I'm sure you already know, somebody in our crew really doesn't like mornings at all.
Is it
So,
Dustin?
maybe. So we had this idea after we had this super early morning stream for something else, not for unicorns. Well, partially, not really though. And he was just groggy in the morning, and I was just laughing at him because I'm not too big on mornings, but I don't really mind them.
Yeah,
And
you
we were
can
just thinking, how
make that
funny would
happen.
it be to just like to wake him up with a camera in his face and just just see what happens. But
This is
anyways,
the cranky Dustin show.
pretty much, yeah. It's like basically it's the show for morning people to laugh at people who hate mornings.
That's pretty awesome, actually. I like this idea.
It would probably be pretty short each episode because after a while he'd start to wake up and then we'd lose the effect. Um, but it's one of those like pie in the sky ideas at the moment. It's like, let's see if we can make it happen. But along those lines, do you ever have any wild ideas, or like what gives you wild ideas for how to do shows, performances, recordings, whatever? Like, do you ever think about doing a show off the back of a boat?
Oh, I mean, that would be really cool. I might need to get you to help me with tech if we went on the back of a boat, but because I don't even know where to start. But I mean, your idea with waking people up in the morning just reminded me of catching people um, when they're not expecting it, or when they're being a little more natural. Like, I know that one of my downfalls when I'm doing a show is I'm always like, even doing this interview now, I I'm talking to you, we're having a great conversation, but I'm very aware that I'm on camera and where the lights are and where the microphone is. Like, I want to learn to like let go of that stuff a little bit, be a bit more natural on cam. So maybe I am a good contender for your morning show. You're gonna have to come wake me up. I'm gonna swear, so I hope it's that I can swear on your show.
Oh, I was telling. Oh, we were talking about it. Is Dustin, by the way. We were talking
Yeah.
about it. Yeah, you already guessed it. Um, we were saying about how this show is going to be so rated R. Like we're going to be he'll be using the word fuck like a comma.
It's
It-
gonna be violent.
Possibly. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, we were
Right.
talking about it, and I was telling him, why don't we just tell you like a range of times? Somewhere in here, I'm just going to knock on your door, and when you open it, we're live.
No, I love it. I think that's a great idea. I definitely don't have any ideas like that don't have to do with music, but I mean, I love the idea of doing a show where I can talk to and perform with different musicians, which is pretty much what we're doing with More Keys right now. And so, I don't know. It's a dream show.
Are there still buskers? Are the buskers around downtown where
Yeah,
you are?
yeah, there's lots of them.
What does a keyboardist do when it comes to busking?
That's the tricky one. Keyboardists need to have all sorts of like little power cubes and amps, and like my keyboard, for example, it's super heavy, it needs power, and it doesn't have any speakers, so you need to plug it into something. So it's not ideal for busking. If you want to be a busker, you need to learn how to play the guitar. That's about it.
Do you play guitar? Or what other instruments do you play?
um I could play the guitar, but I'm not very good at it. Like, I could learn like one or two songs because like, you're a guitar player, so you know how it works. But like, I can play the easy chords like E and A, but anything with a bar chord just sounds terrible. So if I learn a song, I just need to make sure all the chord formations are ones that I can play comfortably with my hands, and then it sounds like I'm an old pro. But you try to throw me a F sharp minor, and we're screwed.
Oh man, it's not exactly busking, but I'm sure you've seen some of those viral videos of like a piano set up at an airport or a bus station, and two
Mhm.
strangers happen to kind of like one of them starts playing it, then another person comes up and starts playing
Oh,
a duet. You ever had that kind of experience?
and then they're like amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it's always so cool to
Well,
watch.
one thing they have, or they had in Vancouver, they set up acoustic pianos like at certain points around town in the summer, and they only had them for during the summer because the weather gets too cold. Otherwise, it's gonna deteriorate the piano, and obviously it could rain. But at one point, they had one on the Burrard Street Bridge. Are you familiar with Burrard Street Bridge at all in Vancouver?
Not familiar with it, no. I'm
So it
sure I've
goes
been on it,
over,
but
yeah, it's like one of the main bridges into downtown, and it goes over English Bay. It's just stunning view. Like, if you're standing in the middle of the bridge, you can see, the North Shore Mountains, you can see English Bay, you can see the city, you can see the beach, everything. It's beautiful. So they have along the sidewalk these little, I don't know what they're called, little area that juts out from the bridge, and they put one of the pianos right in there. So you're playing the piano, you can look out at that view. And so I said to my friend Jen one summer, let's go do that thing like you talked about and walk over to the bridge, go to the piano and just be like, oh, we don't know what we're doing. And then we're going to like totally kill it and like do some amazing number. And everyone's going to go, oh, this is the most beautiful thing. And then I'll be filming it. But it was funny because we got to the piano and there's this girl on the piano and she's plunking away, like just trying to figure out some song. And she was not a good player, and she was totally oblivious that there was other people waiting to play. So we just waited for like forever, and finally we're like, hey, we try? And she's like, oh yeah, sure. Then we did our number and nobody really watched, but it was still lovely. A lovely thing.
I was about to say, I wonder if you'd sat down and started playing hot cross buns with like one finger at a time,
Yeah.
and then out of nowhere just pull out
Yeah,
a
something very,
masterpiece.
some impressive masterpiece with the ocean crashing over the beach. And yeah, it was quite a lovely city. Cologne is so beautiful too, though. Do they do any outdoor music there in the summer?
Well, there's already buskers that are making their way around downtown on nicer days, which is really
Yeah,
nice. I like it. It's actually it's refreshing to hear a live musician again. Honestly,
yeah.
a lot of them are pretty bad, and you walk faster when you get near them. But occasionally, there's a couple of really good ones, and I try to just sort of sit within earshot and munch on
Yeah,
a sandwich or grab a coffee and just hang out. It's a nice sunny day. Get to enjoy it. Like there's a lot of good stuff about music that is really still underrated, despite us being unable to go to concerts right now. People still haven't really clued into how amazingly valuable it is.
yeah. And I think with the absence of live in-person performance, it becomes like, more evident to everybody how much we miss it, right? Like there's such an emotional connection that you get to being in a room with someone playing music when it's like golden hour when the sun hits the building just right and it lights up the whole city. When you got the right singer and the right song at the right time, it can just like hit you. It's really nice, and I think we all miss that.
Yeah, we do. We really do. One thing that a lot of people I've heard have expressed concern about is with all these musicians having nothing to do but stream live, and quite
Yeah,
often just setting their phone like against a bookshelf or who is a bookshelf anymore,
yeah.
leaning it against their computer
Their
monitor
beer.
or a beer, exactly, yeah, and then just playing for free is the value of music has actually gone down despite everyone not being able to go to a live concert. So the concern now is what's going to happen when venues open back up. Like, are people going to be chapped if there's a cover at the door? Is no one going to buy or pay for a live music ticket, or what's going to happen? Like, I don't really know.
Well, it's tough to say. I think I agree with you to an extent that there's been a little bit of that. Like people are getting so used to seeing music for free on Instagram, YouTube, wherever they start to lose the value of it a little bit. But but we're so oversaturated with it right now. Like um, I'm fully aware how many ways there are for people to go on for free and watch music on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitch. There's people doing it all day long, and I think people are still starved for that in-person experience. So I'm a believer that when we're able to open in-person performance back up, that people are going to not take it for granted. They're going to love it, appreciate it even more, and recognize the value in it, and not be afraid to, throw the musician some tips or pay the cover charge. Right?
Yeah, I hope so. One another thing I'm curious what your thoughts on this are for yourself as well as for others is I do enjoy podcasts and I listen to the Joe Rogan podcast quite a lot. And he
Okay.
had a friend of his on who is she's a comedian
Okay.
and she finally got a chance to perform again, but had been more than half a year, more than three-quarters of a year, I think, since her last performance of any kind. It might even have been a full year. I can't remember exactly, but I know it was quite a while. And it wasn't a bad show because she's a
Yeah.
really good established comedian, but her stage presence had been just collecting dust. So
Yeah.
like stage presence is big, especially when you go to a live show. You go to a live show because you want that live element, and you obviously have a fantastic presence even just sitting alone in a room performing to a camera,
Sweet.
and it is even better in person. I do remember with
Aw.
fondness your show in Friends of Dorothy Lounge. That was a real treat that I really enjoyed. Even though I was facing away, I had the best view of anybody. Um, but I'm
Yeah.
curious about both you and also other musician friends that you know. Do you see like warning signs of showmanship and stage presence just taking a beating?
It's a big concern because even though this has been a long year and a half or year and a bit, it's gone by really fast. So sometimes you don't realize, like you said, your stage presence has been sitting there collecting dust. I think, for me personally, doing these kind of virtual appearances and virtual shows and keep up my chops a little bit on the piano and with interactions. But for someone like a comedian, they're relying on that audience feedback, on the cat calls, on the hecklers, basically. They need that. They need to be able to keep up their quick thinking. I don't get any hecklers ever. And I like to think it's because I'm so awesome, but really it's because people don't heckle musicians in the same way. Not very often. It's very rare that you'll go somewhere and see some guy yelling at a musician, like, get off the stage. Like, it doesn't happen. For the most part, people go, oh, there's that guy. He's up there doing his thing and playing his heart out. We're gonna clap. But comedians, man, they have a tough job because they're asking people to give them a hard time, like, and
Yeah,
being
sometimes very
scrutinized.
literally.
Totally. And then if they don't take a joke far enough, they're not funny. And if they take it too far, then they open that whole can of worms. Like, it's a tough gig. I would never want to be a comedian. Oh my God. I'm glad I'm not funny.
No, I've heard of comedians. Some really enjoy working a joke out on stage, and you can't work it anywhere else. You can't tell it to the dog. You can perform to the dog. You can play a song to the
Exactly.
dog, to the girlfriend, the cat, the boyfriend, the mom, the
Yeah.
dad, the cousin, the neighbor across the street that's telling you to shut up. I'm trying to
Yeah.
sleep. But you kind of have to work a joke out on stage. So yeah, I'm definitely curious how that kind of show is going to go.
Well,
Um,
totally. You need that sort of general consensus feedback, right?
mhm.
Because people will react in a different way. And it's similar with songs. I'll sit and write songs, and um, workshopping them live in front of an audience is still the best way to figure out what to do next with it. Like, if that's going to be the song you really, if you're going to put all your eggs in one basket with a song kind of thing, make it your big release. Or even if it's something you play quite frequently. Like, I'm always surprised by the songs that people like at the show, or that get the best crowd response, or that people request to hear over and over. They're not always the ones that I thought when I was writing them, like, oh, this is going to be the banger. Some of my favorites are the ones that people don't like as much.
Well, I'm gonna definitely ask you if you want to play one more song, but just before that though, I'm actually curious. Have you ever written or finished writing a song on stage?
No, no,
No,
never.
that's always done in the shadows and then brought out to be showcased.
Are you talking like an improv that like turns into a song later, or like,
Well, maybe a song that you could have taken it a couple of different directions. You were unsure, so you kind of like tried one version of it here, one version of it there, and kind of see what one goes over better. Like that's really writing for the audience. It's not writing for yourself anymore, but it's
gotcha?
still a legitimate way to write a song.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that's sort of related. I definitely like to workshop my songs live. So, for example, when I put out an album, I've usually been playing those songs for a year or two before, because I always like to play the new songs. Once I have the song written, I'll play it, try it out in front of a crowd, and then, yeah, like you said, certain things will change. I might um, do the bridge differently, or I might try to sing the chorus in a different way. I usually record all my shows if I can, because I'm interested to hear back how they sound, and um, especially when I'm dealing with new material like that. Standing in the Way of Love, the cool thing was being able to do so many virtual shows that were obviously being recorded and showing on YouTube, so I could watch back, and I kind of learned the way I like to do the song, and that dictated the way it was recorded in the end too.
Interesting. Interesting.
But fully written, maybe not so much. I usually try to have them down pretty good before I polish them up and give them to the crowd. It's You get
Um,
nervous sharing these songs with people, right?
oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
showcasing your arts, showcasing
Yeah.
something that you've worked really hard on, and in some ways you are like for a horrible description of what's going on, you're parading your baby around and asking people,
Yeah.
"Did I do well? Is this good?"
Yeah. And quite often it's about something quite personal too that you care about and they might not. So then they're like, yeah, it's a good song, and you're like, "Ugh."
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can be harsh to have that kind
it can
of
be harsh.
critique.
Yeah.
If you were to play one more before we conclude this episode, it's because I'm looking at the time. It's kind of getting close to about
It's a
half of
dinner
a longer
time.
show. It's dinner
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If you were to play one more, what would you? What can we hear a song that also you can maybe tell us a story behind?
Yeah, I got a lot of songs, and the nice thing is I try my best to keep playing all of them, even the ones I wrote like when I was young. I still play a lot of those songs. Um, so in a moment like this, when you're like, do another one, I got lots to choose from, but um, I didn't have anything planned. So the one I'm gonna play is kind of related to our conversation. How does that sound?
I love it.
Yeah, and it's more of a deep cut, but it's from my Every Single Sin album. And this one's called Artist Life. And the reason I want to choose this song is because it was written about trying to balance being a musician and having a day job, basically. In response to, I was seeing friends who would say things like, no, man, you got to go all in. If you want to do music, you have to be all in, put everything into it, your heart and soul, and all your time. And that's the only way you're going to be successful. And I don't necessarily agree with that kind of mindset. For me, I realized that I could be successful in the sense that I could share my music with people and do it the way I want to do it. Because if I had a job, I might not have as much time, but I'm gonna, be able to afford my apartment and the things I need to do the music the way I want to do it. So this is a bit of a this song tries to look at kind of both sides of that conversation a little bit. I think it's a neat little song, but I don't know. It's not a fan favorite.
Well, I'm happy to end on something that you chose and say screw off
Thank
to
you.
everybody else. I'm happy about that.
Totally. I like it. And it's not that people don't like it. A lot of people like the song. I play it quite a bit. But I remember my friend, a girlfriend of mine says to me, "You really like playing that song, huh?" Like that. That's how she says it. And I'm like, "Yeah, I like that one." Anyways, it's a good one. This is called Artist Life, okay? Check one, two. It's a balance, babe. You're not just selling out. You're making music every day. Even if it's for yourself, you gotta work to play. You gotta pay to play. You gotta pay your time at the end of the gig. It's what rounds you out. You can talk your game. You can throw your shit, but at the end of the day, sacrifice more than you gain. Work for free or work in vain. The artist life is not how you imagined it would be. It's a different game. Oh, you gotta learn to play. You're an artist, babe, and that's what artists do. They write about their shit, about the shit that they've been through. Paying your bills doesn't mean giving up on your dreams. Funding yourself is a reality. Your bohemian fantasy exists differently in this century. And you've had your ups and downs. Friends and lovers pull you through. Please It's a balance, babe. You're not just selling art. The artist life is compromise, even if it's with yourself. Thank you.
That was awesome.
Thank you, man.
I love
Oh,
that.
thank you. Yeah, I like that song a lot, actually. It's a
Um,
good one.
Two things. First of all, that was like ballad style, and I feel like it needs to go along with some kind of a visual scene with two
Okay.
musicians, one who's conflicted and shy, and the other one who's pushing them to be themselves and to get out there on stage and kick ass.
Could we make a music video?
Please, let's do that. I would.
Oh,
I'm
that
so
would
down.
be
Let's absolutely
awesome.
do that. The second thing is something I'm sorry about is I just found that echo cancellation and noise suppression features, and they were on this whole time until about halfway
Oh,
through the song. No, that was my end. That wasn't your end. And as soon as I turned them off, it got so much better.
oh, well,
So
it's
I just,
sounding good here.
it sounds wonderful. Like at the
Yeah.
last half, it sounded absolutely amazing, and the first half is like, this is like it sounds good, but it's like this is kind of Zoom quality ish. And then I turn those off, and it's
Oh,
like, oh my god, wow,
I
okay,
see. It might have compressed it a little bit or something.
yeah. Well, it was messing with your reverb. So as soon as I turned it off, all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's what he intended it to sound like. This is so much better.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I have my reverb pedal.
I do like the
Yeah.
reverb pedal. It sounds good.
It's nice. It gives a little zhuzh.
Yeah, it gives a little space, helps it open up a little bit.
Hello.
There it is.
Hello. All right. There we go. Experiment over. But yeah, I mean, technical, we learn every time, right? Right, Nathan?
Yeah, I think
Like,
that this is the way they want to do more of these. So here's the thought: do you have somebody who like could even have been someone who was on more keys? But is there anyone who you'd want to do another one of these with again, but have like a third guest?
oh, well, I mean, I'd love to do it with Kale. Kale, my partner, and he's here most of the time. He's awesome, and he's a great singer. I'd also love to do one with Tara C. Taylor from Berlin. She's really awesome too. And of course, the time exchange is always a bit of a a bit of an issue. But we do it at 5 o'clock. It's not that late for her. What is that, like 1 in the morning? No problem. She'll be up. She'll be into her vodka martinis by then, but that's
I'm sure
okay.
we will be too. I'm
Yeah,
surprised
yeah,
that I'm not
exactly.
right now, actually.
Yeah, I mean it's a lovely evening.
Yeah. Well,
No,
let's plan that.
totally. We
Let's get
should.
Kale on for next one.
That would be really fun. It would be really fun. I love what you're doing with this podcast. I think you have a flair for quality and performance. And Nathan, I gotta say, like, you dress up so nicely too. New Year's Eve when you were wearing your jacket and you were so well put together, it was beautiful. You always look really nice. And
I was pretty sloppy end of the night.
yeah, that was a fun night though. Oh
Oh, it was
man,
so good.
we had such that was the best virtual New Year's Eve I've ever had. It was like we had a fun show, but also like the behind the scenes, us just hanging out on camera was great fun.
Oh yeah,
We
we were
had a
talking
really
about
nice
doing
time.
more of those unicorn reviews, and that was kind of like a
Yeah,
lot all at once because it was end of the year and we hadn't really done that before. But we're gonna be doing those more frequently. I think they're a lot of fun.
totally, so much fun, and you guys have such a great crew. I just love you, Corey, Dustin, the whole lot of you.
Hey man, I love you too.
Wonderful,
You're an awesome human being, a fantastic performer, so friendly, so easy to talk
so
with.
sweet.
Like as a performer, a musician, like I've met a lot, and I don't remember most of them. But you've been a person difficult to forget for all the right reasons.
That's really sweet. Thank you. Well, I can't wait to come back up there and hang out again in person.
Yes, yes, we can't wait to have you back.
Yeah.
But I think we're gonna we'll wrap this up for now. We'll have to do another one of these again, and we'll bring
Yeah.
Kale on. Have the two of you
No,
on.
that would be
That'd
great.
be pretty awesome.
That would be great. Well, in the meantime, I really enjoyed being on here and talking with you. Thank you. We've got 4 more shows with more keys coming up every second Monday on Unicorns Live.
Hmm.
And there's all the back catalog on my YouTube, which is youtube.com, Matthew Presidente, of all the World is Watching shows. And there'll be some more of those coming up in the future here and there. It'll be more sporadic thing. And then I encourage everyone to check out my Spotify, and you can hear this Standing in the Way of Love, as well as that song I just played, Artist Life, too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
I gotta figure out how to get some overlays on here as well. If you send me the
Oh, put
link,
them in the
actually,
links.
I'll
Yeah,
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 yeah, send me the link. I'll add
totally.
it to the description here.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Nathan, and enjoy your evening. It was really great to talk to you.
Likewise, likewise.
Okay.
Have a good
Mwah.
one. Bye.